ادع إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بالمهتدين.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Dear respected brothers and sisters, I greet you in the Islamic way by saying Assalamu alaikum. May Allah, may peace be with you. Again, alhamdulillah, we are meeting to listen to these important topics. Especially today's topic is really, I called it a contemporary topic because it tackles a very important issue of the day. I will call it the topic of the day. Because when we talk about challenges, and not any challenges, we are talking about intellectual challenges, which really give this lecture more importance. Confronting or facing Muslims in the contemporary world. I think such topics are really need to be tackled, especially at this time and at this age. And alhamdulillah, what makes it also motivating and interesting that the knight who's tackling this topic is a very qualified university professor from King Khalid University who gave this topic its due. He's been preparing, and really from my experience with him, I think we are today in front of a person who will give this important topic its due, and I'm sure we will benefit a lot from his presentation. I talk about my dear respected brother Muhammad Sharir Talakudar from King Khalid University, who will be given 1 hour or 1 hour 15 minutes to give his presentation. Then, as usual, we will open the floor for any question or commentary, and then we will stop at any rate quarter before 6 o'clock, inshallah, God willing, in order to give the sisters and the brother enough time to have some refreshment in the cafeteria and then to prepare themselves for Maghrib prayer. After that, straight after Maghrib, inshallah, we will be listening to the second lecture that I will talk about it at a time. Without any more introduction, I don't want to stand between you and our distinguished speaker, so I call upon him to be kind and to take the floor and start his speech.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillahi. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajmain, amma ba'd. As you can see from the title that I've chosen for today's discussion, there is intellectual challenges faced by Muslims in the contemporary world. Actually, I would like to focus especially on two different words. Here you can see the intellectual and challenges, and at the same time the contemporary. So instead of saying in the past, present or future, I'm just trying to focus on particularly contemporary world, because as we are here, we have to deal with our present day's problems. So that's actually I have chosen this topic and I have fixed it in this way. Now, okay. In the preface, you see, I try to say, you can see the highlighted part, the Daya, caller to Islam, must be confident that he is academically well acquainted with his subject. Deep and strong knowledge isn't a condition for dawah. So you see, we have to be informed academically that we are dealing with the problems, but it doesn't mean that we have to have deep or in-depth knowledge on it. A little bit of knowledge about the contemporary world, I think it's one of the necessities or the requirements to be a da'i, if you want to call people to the Islam. Now, here, if we just take a look at the Dawah style, I'll just go very swiftly. I don't want to take much time here because most of you are already familiar with these things. You see, the style in Dawah terminology means the way the Daya delivers the message of Islam, the style the Dai uses when conveying his message, his art of conveying the message, the approach he takes with the Mad'u. Mad'u means the inviting, that means the people that we are going to call to the Islam. Now, here you see, scholars have categorized Dawah methods as four. First one, the emotional method, a collection of methods that touch the Mad'u, the invitee, emotionally and consciously. For example, reminders, inspiriting and disheartening to share touching stories, and so on. The intellectual method, a set of methods that call for contemplation, reflection, and consideration. For example, comparison between good and bad, metaphorical styles, illustrations, and logical reasoning, refutations, debates, and so on. And the third one, the sensory method, a group of methods that rely on sense and personal experiences. That means our personal experiences as a human being. For example, the style of sharing one's own experiences, the silent style, also known as a good manner style. That means you just behave well with the people, and people will get the idea from that actually you are just giving a dawah in an implicit way, not directly. That means helping others, giving charity, and etc. The last one is general methods, applying presentation skills, storytelling, question and answer session with the people, and so on. But I would like to focus on this one, the intellectual method. Now, if you want to follow this intellectual method, then definitely you have to be conversant with the contemporary problems and issues that we are having these days. Here you see a set of methods, just as a reminder, I'm just reading it again, a set of methods that call for contemplation, reflection, and consideration, that we have to contemplate. That means we have to meditate on something, and then we have to reflect on it. That means we have to think about it. And consideration, then we have to consider the ways and means to convey the message to the people. For example, comparison between good and bad, metaphorical styles, illustration, logical reasoning. There you see the logical reasoning, refutations, and debates. In these three parts, if you don't have the sufficient knowledge about the contemporary world, definitely, inviting, especially if you want to invite someone who is a scholar or academically who is sound, then you must have ideas about the contemporary problems. So that's actually, I want to focus on this method. The intellectual method is going to be my today's topic of the discussion. Now here, before we go for the detail, let me talk about some of the important challenges that we have here. First one that I'm going to talk about, Orientalism / others. Then second one is different school of thoughts, madhab, that we know in that name. Third one is intertextuality. Fourth one is stereotyping. Fifth is Islamophobia. 6, oblivious of the history. 7, understanding of Taghut and its influence. Number 8, normalization of vice. 9, Ummah Wasat or moderate Muslims. 10, knowledge about other religions. That means that comparative religion or the comparative theological understanding. Now, the first one is Orientalism. Actually, you can see that Edward Said, he was the proponent of this idea, the Orientalism, and this is one of his famous books. This is the cover page of that book. Now, what does it mean, Orientalism? Let's take a look at it. First, Orientalism is a way of seeing that imagines, emphasizes, exaggerates, and distorts differences of Arab peoples and cultures and Muslims at large as compared to that of Europe and the United States. So here you see Orientalists, they try to give us a kind of, that means the Eastern people, that especially the Muslims and the Arabs, they want to say that we are the other. We are not the, we are not in the mainstream. We are the people who are in the backward. So you see, imagines, emphasizes, exaggerates, and distorts. So these are the mechanisms that they use to prove that we are the other. We are not the part of the mainstream. Now, the second paragraph, it says, it often involves seeing Arab culture as exotic, backward, uncivilized, and at times dangerous. So you see, here you can see that a kind of stereotyping is going on, that we are exotic. That means our culture are completely different. It's not like the culture of the Western people. That means it doesn't go with the common norms. We are backward. Then we are uncivilized. And at times, we, the other, we are dangerous. Now, Edward Said, in his groundbreaking book, Orientalism, defined it as the acceptance in the West of the basic distinction between East and West as the starting point for elaborate theories, epics, novels, social descriptions, and political accounts concerning the Orient, its people, customs, mind, destiny, and so on. So you see, they are trying to configure, they are trying to restructure the whole East, especially the Arab world and the Muslims at large. So they are trying to influence everything that come across. Now, according to Said, Orientalism dates from the period of European enlightenment and colonization of the Arab world. Orientalism provided a rationalization for European colonialism based on a self-serving history in which the West constructed the East. Just try to notice this word, this phrase, the West constructed the East and extremely different and inferior. So they wanted to prove that we Muslims, the Arab world, is the inferior to the West, and therefore in need of Western intervention or rescue. So as we're in danger, we are uncivilized, we are brutes, now the Western people, they have come to rescue us from this quagmire, that you can say, or from these problems or difficult situations that we are going on. The next one, examples of early Orientalism can be seen in European paintings and photographs, and also in images from the World's Fair in the United States in the 19th and early 20th centuries. The paintings created by European artists of the 19th and early 20th centuries depict the Arab world as an exotic, so they try to draw pictures, paintings, and they try to prove that Arab world is exotic, mysterious place of sand, harems, and belly dancers, reflecting a long history of Orientalist fantasies, which have continued to permeate our contemporary popular culture. So we can see that in our popular culture, the effect of this intellectual invasion, we can feel it now. Now, you can see French colonized Algeria, and they try to portray the picture of the women in their own way. And you can see the last one here, you can see the women are actually set up in the photographer's studio. So those pictures were taken in the photographer's studio, but they were, look, from here, you can, if you just read this paragraph, as demonstrated in Malik Alula's book, The Colonial Harem, these photographs were circulated as evidence of exotic, backwards, and strange customs of Algerians, when in fact, they reveal more about the French colonial perspective than about Algerian life in the early 1900s. This is an example of how Arab women have been exoticized and eroticized for the pleasure of the European male voyeur, as these photographs make invisible French colonial fantasies of penetrating the harem and gaining access to Arab women's private spaces. So it was their sole purpose that they just wanted to have an access into the Arab women's private spaces. Look, this is the photograph. You can see it was taken. Now, the title of this photograph is Egyptian Girl in the Street of Cairo. So that is the caption for this photograph. Now, this caption refers to the peculiar manners of the Egyptians and her unsightly disguise. So you see, they have disguised their beautiful faces behind this veil, and they say that this is unsightly, that is ugly. It's not good to look at. In addition to being written about as an object of display, her characteristics are described as belonging to a backward culture. So it is from a backward culture. Now let's talk about this different school of thoughts, that means the madhab. Actually, this is you can say most talked about topic, one of the most talked about topics of the day. That's my personal consideration, and also I've talked to some of my brothers in Islam. Everybody is facing the same problem with this one, especially I'm from the subcontinent, and there we have these problems. Because when actually we are trying to unify the whole Muslim Ummah, this madhab and also some other things coming with this madhab, they're just, in a sense, you can say, creating lots of divisions among the Ummah instead of unifying us. Look, so different school of thoughts of madhab, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal, Imam Shafi'i, and Imam Maliki. Now, the legal sources of Islam in the Quran, the legal sources of Islam are the Quran and the Hadith. For their jurisprudence, Muslims rely also on the seerah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the decisions made by the rightly guided caliphs, and the general consciences of the early Muslim jurists. In doing so, they will be able to know more about what is lawful halal. So they're just giving us idea, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions, that what is lawful halal, unlawful, what is haram, sorry for the spelling mistake, then innovation, that is bid'ah, suspected, that means that is mashbooth, that say distasteful, that is makruh, recommended, that is mandub or mustahab, or jaiz, possible. So these are the things that we are getting from our predecessors. Now, if Muslims are confronted with the contemporary situation, which may not be found in any of the above sources, they will rely on analogy, that is called qiyas. However, such type of decision making should be based on the spirit of Islamic teachings. So you cannot concoct, or you cannot imagine, or you cannot bring any kind of contemporary analogy, and which actually in reality contradict the teachings of the Quran and the prophetic traditions. Now, the following is a summary of the sources of Islamic Sharia. Here you can see the Quran, the Hadith and Sunnah of the Prophet, the Sirah, life history of the Prophet, then Ijma, Qiyas, and also we have others. I don't want to go through all these. And the last of all, you can see the Mazhab al-Sahaba. So there is no Mazhab of those Imams. You can see the Mazhab al-Sahaba, the companions. So opinions of the rightly guided companions, Khulafa Rashidin of the Prophet. Now, this is the question. And this question actually is asked, thousands of times in different forums and different places. Now, the question is it mandatory for a Muslim to follow a specific madhab like Maliki, Hanafi, or Hanbali, and so on? Now, let's consider these points. Firstly, the four madhabs are named after the four Imams: Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam al-Shafi, and Imam Ahmad. Secondly, these Imams learn fiqh, jurisprudence, from the Quran and Sunnah, and they are mustahidin in this regard. The mustahid either gets the right, in which case he will have two rewards: the rewards for his ijtihad and the reward for getting it right, or he will get it wrong, in which case he will be rewarded for his ijtihad and will be forgiven for his mistake. So when they do ijtihad or research work on the basis of Quran and Sunnah, they might be right or they might be wrong. If they're right, they will get the benefit, and if they are wrong, still they will get the benefit, but half of it. So you see, from this point, you can understand that their ijtihad can be right or it can be wrong. So if it is the situation, then we have to ask ourselves that whether really we can rely on one of these madhab as a syllabus, as a manhaj of the Muslims throughout the whole world. Now thirdly, the one who is able to derive rulings from the Quran and Sunnah should take from them like those who came before him. It is not right for him to follow blindly. That means taqlid, we cannot follow them blindly when he believes that the truth lies elsewhere. So I know the truth, it's somewhere, that means in Quran and Sunnah, but it has came from the Hanafi or Shafi, from this kind of madhab, so that's why I have to accept it because I'm Hanafi, or I'm a Hanbali or Shafi, so that's why I have to follow that thing. Even it contradicts the teaching of the Quran and Sunnah. So this is the problem with the blind following. Rather, he should follow that which he believes is the truth. It is permissible for him to follow in matters in which he is unable to come to a conclusion based on the Quran and Sunnah, and he needs guidelines concerning particular issue. Fourthly, whoever doesn't have the ability to drive rulings himself is permitted to follow one whom he feels comfortable following. So if I cannot do that, if I cannot do the ijtihad, and if I don't have enough knowledge of Islam, Quran and Sunnah, I can follow, but it has a limitation. If he is not comfortable following him, then he should ask until he finds someone with whom he is comfortable. So it's about the comfort, it's about the access to any of the madhab, but it doesn't mean that you have to follow that madhab blindly. Fifthly, the last one, from the above, it is clear that we should not follow their opinions in all situations. So we shouldn't follow their opinions in all situations and at all times, because they may make mistakes. But we may follow their views that are sound and are based on the evidence. Now, I don't want to go through the whole thing. Just see one of the Imams, and I have read their life, and I found that almost all the Imams, they actually echoed the same line, same sentence. It says, if the hadith is sahih, then that is my madhab. So from this, you can understand that following the madhab, specifically madhab, the Hanafi Shafi, this statement nullifies that we have to follow those madhab as the syllabus or the manhaj of for the Muslims. Now, here is the verse. I would like to go through the translation. And hold firmly the rope of Allah and all together, and do not become divided. And remember the favor of Allah upon you when you were enemies, and He brought your hearts together, and you became by His favor brothers. And you were on the edge of a pit of the fire, and He saved you from it. Thus does Allah make clear to you His verses that you may be guided. Surah Al-Imran 103, verse number 103. So you see, this very verse from the Holy Quran clarifies, and it is self-evident by itself that we must not follow any particular madhab. We can go for the suggestions, we can go for the solutions sometimes to this Islamic jurisprudence or school of thoughts, but we cannot follow them blindly. All right. Now I want to go through this third point, that is intertextuality. Let's go with a very simple definition of intertextuality. I have collected from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Here it says, the complex interrelationship between a text and other texts taken as basic to the creation or interpretation of text. Actually, why I am talking about intertextuality? Because these days, with the development of this particular field of knowledge, that people are trying to interpret, or they're trying to analyze the Quran and Hadith in relation to other books, maybe from science, from philosophy and other things. But sometimes those things prove insufficient, and they don't, in a sense, suffice to understanding the knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah. So there is some dangers of following this method of intertextuality. Now you see, in a broad sense, intertextuality is the reference to or application of a literary, media or social text within another literary, media or social text. Now you can see that when you try to analyze one text, we are trying to decontextualize that thing. That means you cannot interpret Quran or Hadith out of the Quran, because Quran and Hadith, their interpretation are interrelated. But sometimes the Western intellectuals, they try to understand Quran and Hadith on the basis of the understanding of the Western philosophy, Western thoughts. So there lies the danger. Now I don't want to go through all this, but I'll just show one point here. Now if we try to follow this idea of intertextuality, what will happen? This is the danger here. Destabilization. Let's read it. Intertextuality can sometimes destabilize or shake up our understanding of the original text being referenced or is seen or idea in the primary book. So if we go through this intertextuality, idea of this intertextuality, it can destabilize or it can shake up the meaning of the Quran. So there lies the danger of following this intertextuality in every case, especially if you try to understand Quran on the basis of Western thoughts. Now, how far can we go or be intertextual in explaining verses from the Holy Quran? Let's see. Now, types of tafsir. First, a tafsir bil masur. It says that is narrated or interpreted by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his companions, and immediate later generation, that means Thabi'in. So the way they understood the Quran and the Hadith, we have to understand in the same way. So this is the best way to understand the Quran, instead of going through this idea of intertextuality. So at-tafsir bil masur. The second one is at-tafsir bil ra'i. It is done by istihad, the research, based on the right knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah. Now, at-tafsir bil masur is the best way of getting interpretation about verses from the Holy Quran. If any additional interpretation about a verse is not found in at-tafsir bil masur, which appears necessary for understanding, mufassirs do the following. So they go through this procedure you can say. While interpreting the meaning, they, that means the mufassirs, take care vigilantly of the original meaning suggested by al-tafsir bil masur. That means the Prophet Muhammad and his companions, the way they understood the Quran, and never introduce anything that might contradict the source text. Here, source text means Quran. To interpret the verse according to what Quran says generally and what prophetic tradition has made it clear about the source text. So going against that while interpreting the verse is completely prohibited. So we cannot go against the verse. Because one part of the Quran complements the understanding of another part of the Quran, and they never conflicting meaning. So if we don't understand one part of the Quran, then definitely that thing is clarified in the other part of the Quran. So we have to go through that. A sound knowledge of Arabic language is a must. Since Quran is in Arabic, understanding of it must comply with Arabic syntax, semantics, morphology, and so on. Now, mutashabihat, whose definite meanings are unknown, that means some verses, their meanings are unknown, must be understood in the light of muhkamat, of established meaning. So if we find that some verses are vague, we don't understand it, then we can go through the, that is muhkamat, or we can say the of established meaning of those verses. So those verses will help us to understand the meaning of the verses that we don't understand the meaning. So since one part of the Quran complements the understanding of another part of the Quran, and most of the verses in the Quran are muhkamat, of established meaning, that means it's understandable, it's easy. Regarding this, Almighty Allah says in the Quran, here you see, He is the one who has revealed to you the book. A number of His verses are muhkamat, of established meaning, and those are the principal verses of the book, and others mutashabihat, whose definite meanings are unknown. Now those who have crookedness in their hearts go after such part of it as is mutashabi, seeking to create discord and searching for its interpretation, while no one knows its interpretation except Allah. And those well known grounded in knowledge say, we believe therein, all is from our Lord, and only the man of understanding to observe the advice. Surah Al-Imran verse 7. So you see, Allah has clarified in the Quran, and there is a verse in the Quran in Al-Imran, that how we have to understand the Quran instead of going for this so-called Western, this intertextuality. Now, while interpreting verses related to the universe, we must not incorporate scientific opinions as a part of the tafsir. So there are lots of scientific developments that are going on. So we shouldn't take those scientific developments to support the ayah of the Quran. It shouldn't be done. If we do so, something might get infused into the meaning of the verses that Quran does not vouchsafe or support. In the name of intertextuality, we must be vigilant of the possible distortion and misinterpretation of the meaning of the verses from the Holy Quran. So this is all about the intertextuality. Now let's go for this next issue, that is stereotyping. Now what is a stereotyping? A stereotype is a rigid, oversimplified, often exaggerated belief that is applied both to an entire social category of people or to each individual within it. Stereotypes form the basis for prejudice, which in turn is used to justify discrimination and attitudes. So you see, we stereotype, for example, these days, the Arabs, they're stereotyped as terrorists or extremists, or Muslims means extremist, just like this. Now, when the Crusaders invaded the Middle East and when the Spanish Inquisition took place, many misconceptions were created against Islam and Muslim. A series of stereotypes were fabricated and spread. They were changed according to time, place, and conditions. But the accusation is still prevailing. Muslims are put on the defensive side. So we are a stereotype, or we are branded or tagged with so many titles. Now we have to take the defensive side. We have lost our pride. Now, let's see some old stereotypes against Muslims. Look, instead of saying Muslims, they used to call us Muhammadanism for Islam. So actually we are Muslims, we are not this Muhammadanism or Muhammadans. Muhammadans for Muslims, Arabs for Muslims. So they will say they are Arabs, they don't say Muslims. So when they say Muslims, they understand Arabs only. Black Muslims for Muslims, harem, slavery. Killing non-Muslims, go to paradise. Spreading of Islam with the sword, jihad, holy war, and polygamy. For when you talk about Islam, they only understand Islam means polygamy. That means marrying several times, that's it. Worshipping a black stone. Allah is a statue worshipped by Muslims. Discrimination against women. So these are the old stereotypes against Muslims and Islam. Such stereotypes and false information against Islam and Muslims created hatred, animosity, and a state of cold war against Muslims. Now, these are the newest stereotypes against Muslims. You see, fundamentalism, very recent coinage. Then you can see terrorism, hostage killing, taking, hijacking, radicals, reactionaries, militancy, religious fanaticism, dictatorship, totalitarianism, socialism, extremism, Arabism, nationalism, and so on. The list goes on and on and on. So you see, all these and many more created an atmosphere of fear in the minds, hearts, and souls of many innocent people all over the world. Now, look at the contemporary situations, and what are the reasons? General reasons, you can see, ignorance of the majority of non-Muslims about Islam and Muslims. So mostly you can see the majority of people, they don't know about Muslims. Hate because Muslims are different, their religion is spreading fast, and it has lots to offer in solving modern problems. So this is the threat. Sorry. Here you see, it can solve modern problems. So that's why Islam is a threat to the Western world. And third, jealousy for having Prophet Muhammad from the progeny of Ismail and not from the progeny of Isaac and Yaqub. It works in the mind of the Jews especially. Then psychological reasons such as, you can see, phobia towards Islam and Muslims, then lack of confidence in themselves and by those who are afraid of Islam. The leaders of this country are afraid because Islam offers a better way of life than democracy and capitalism. So you can see Islam, it has been termed, or it has been, you can say, considered as the sole enemy of democracy and capitalism these days. So that's why they are, all this whole world, except the Muslims, they're against the Islam for these reasons. Now, the leaders here have already failed their mission and they want to cover their mistakes by putting blame on others, such as Islam and Muslims. So they have failed to contribute to their country, to contribute for their people. Now they are just putting all those blames on Islam and Muslims. Another one is isolation. Muslims have isolated themselves from informing the non-Muslims about Islam. So we have to stop informing the people. They do work with non-Muslims and they do business with one another, but Muslims do not take the initiative to talk about their religion. So we have business transactions, financial transactions with the people, I mean the non-Muslims, Western world, but rarely actually we feel like having a discussion or any kind of discourse about Islam with those people. Now, external reasons, we have crusaders, Inquisition, colonialism and imperialism, past and present, missionaries, Orientalists, politicians, the veto power of Security Council. You have noticed that in the Security Council, we don't have any Muslim country that represents the Security Council and who can exercise the veto power. So we don't have, out of these 5, all of them are Christians or from some other religions, but not a single Muslim nation is there. Double standard of the superpowers in exporting democracy to all except to Muslims. So the Western world, they're trying to export the idea of democracy to the Muslims and to the Arab world, but in a different way. Demolition of the Islamic Caliphate and the division of the Muslim Ummah. And also we have the internal reasons like secularism. You understand what is secularism, so I don't want to go through all this. Then we have several religious movements. It has also caused this stereotyping. For example, you can see like Sufism, these kind of movements. And also revitalist movements you can see, like Muslim Brotherhood, Jamaat Islami, Jamaat Tabligh, Hizb Tahrir. So, and also religious governments like Iran, Sudan, Pakistan, other pseudo-religious governments. So they have already, you can say, already tarnished the image of Islam, and now the Western world, they understand Islam on the basis of these parties, these countries, their government system. Then psychological reasons, most of the Muslims who came to the United States from the Muslim world are passive. So they go to the United States to better their own life, but rarely actually they try to talk about Islam or they contribute to the Islam. They don't get involved in politics and they're not vocal. They don't talk. They lived in America for a number of years and still they are afraid to express their views to non-Muslims. They're afraid to be known as activists. So people will call them activists, so that's why they don't want to talk. We're not activists, we're just citizens of the United States. Either they're afraid of losing their jobs or citizenship. Now, these are some images that you can see. Economic stereotyping, you see, tolerance, freedom of speech, that we don't have tolerance, we don't have freedom of speech. And we don't know how to integrate ourselves. That means when you go abroad, we don't know how to integrate with the other cultures. Another stereotyping is freedom of speech, and you see just doing some editing. So he's just trying to do some editing on the freedom of speech. So this is stereotyping by the Western world. Another one, this one, one of my favorites. You see, Islam is a tolerant religion, And what do we tolerate? We tolerate fanatics, suicide bombers, terrorist charities, and women barely. So we are tolerant because we are tolerant of this. That's why we are tolerant. So this is their view about Islam. Now, let's talk about the Islamophobia. Now, aphobia, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, is an exaggerated, usually inexplicable and illogical fear of a particular object, class of objects or situation. So this kind of phobia is, I mean, you don't find any reason. These reasons are contrived. They are devised. So you see the Western world, they are scared of the Muslim world, and in the Western world, they have propagated this idea that Muslims are terrorists and extremists. So that's why now they're scared of us. So from that, actually, we got this thing, the Islamophobia. Actually, this particular word, it was introduced first in 1910 by a French writer in France. He wrote an article and he used this word Islamophobia there. We can go for the second definition. You can see an exaggerated fear, hatred, and hostility toward Islam and Muslims that is perpetuated by negative stereotypes resulting in bias, discrimination, and the marginalization and exclusion of Muslims from social, political, and civic life. So you see, this is the purpose. Social, political, and civic life. They want to exclude us from all this. Now, if we just look at this visual, here you can see that is Islamophobia, totally. Now, we can see that there is violence, prejudice, and there is exclusion, and there is discrimination. Now, in the violence, you can see, you can see physical assault, then vandalizing of property, verbal abuse. So all these things actually incorporate Islamophobia. So that means those people who are scared of Islam, they do these things to us. Then they have prejudice, that in the media they have prejudice. They always try to telecast or broadcast, I mean, all the negative images of the Islam and the Muslims, all through. And then in everyday conversation also we can find this prejudice. And in the exclusion you can see, they try to exclude us from employment, from management and responsibility, so you don't find any Muslims in the higher positions. I mean, if you just compare the proportion with the people from the other religions, in proportion to that, you will find that Muslims are not in the, I mean, you shouldn't say, I mean, in the higher authority. You don't find them at the top of the ladder. So from management and responsibility, and also exclusion from politics and government, and discrimination in employment practices, in provision of services, in education, in health. We face in all these sectors the discrimination. Now, let's analyze Islamophobia based on the article. So I'm going to mention something about Islamophobia, and I have collected all this information from an article that it's a very famous one, and it's a very recent one, recently published. The title of the article is The Multiple Faces of Islamophobia by Raymond Goswigel, University of California, Berkeley. Here you see, he showed the forms of the Islamophobia, how it developed. The first stage, it started, is Islamophobia as a form of racism in world historical perspective. So it is, we're talking about that is historical. So our first consideration will be the historical, that how it developed in the history, the Islamophobia. Let's see. In the heterarchical conceptualization of the world system used here, Islamophobia would be the subalternization, the inferiorization of Islam produced by Christian-centric religious hierarchy of the world system since the end of the 15th century. The year 1492 is a crucial foundational year for the understanding of the present system. In this year, Christian Spanish monarchy reconquered Islamic Spain, expelling Jews and Arabs from the Spanish peninsula, while simultaneously discovered the Americas and colonized indigenous people. Just try to understand it. Spain were under the rule of the Muslim rulers, Muslim Caliphate. But in the 1492, the Spanish monarchy, they reconquered the Islamic Spain, and they expelled all the Jews and the Arabs from the Spain. And at the same time, you know, there are lots of, you can say, business expeditions were going on all around the world. And Spain sent their ships, and also so other nations like Netherlands and also England, I mean, they sent their business expeditions to the other countries, and they discovered new lands. And there they found the Native Americans, and also they went to the African continent and they found these African peoples there. So they were black. So you see, simultaneously something happened. And that is very interesting twist of the history. You can see they reconquered the Spain, and at the same time they discovered different places in different continents. Now what happened then? The Arab and Jewish population that was left inside the Iberian Peninsula were forced to convert to Christianity. So when they reconquered the Spain, they forced all the natives, they forced all the people there to accept or to embrace Christianity. They forced them, they compelled them. Now here see, we would like to focus on two different terms. One is, here you can see, that is Marranos or Marrano, and most of, definitely it's in Spanish, and I'm not sure about the Spanish pronunciation, but as it says in English alphabet, the English letters, you can see Marranos, the converted Jews. The converted Jews are called Marranos, and the Moriscos, the converted Muslims, are called the Moriscos, were the terms used at the time to classify these Christianized populations. So the whole 16th century was a century of persecution inside the Iberian Peninsula against Moriscos until its final expansion in 1609. So in the 1609, Muslims are expelled from the Spain completely. So, all right, now I would like to focus on this particular slide here. See, indigenous people, that means the local people, native people of that particular place, characterized in the late 15th century and early 16th century as people without God. So you see, those Muslims and those Jews, they were people without God, or the black people, they were people without God. In the Christian Spanish imaginary became inferior subhuman or non-human beings. And they started considering these folks or this group of people, they considered them as non-human beings, that they are not humans, they are animals. So you can treat them any way you like. So it is this inferiorization below the human to the level of animals which turned indigenous people in the Americas, that means into the first radicalized subject of the modern colonial world, inaugurated in 1492. This racist imagery was extended to the people without God, such as sub-Saharan Africans. So they went to Africa, and they termed those African people that people without God, and they are not human beings. And massively, they were transferred to America because they were enslaved for the slavery. Now, two very prominent, you can say, academicians or intellectuals, I don't know specifically about these people, but they're very famous in the Spanish history. And if you just look at these, their names are Sepulveda and Las Casas in the school of Salamanca in the 1550s. Look, what did they say? You see, Sepulveda defended that indigenous people had no soul. So that is concept. He said that they don't have any soul, therefore they are not humans, and could be enslaved without representing a sin in the eyes of God. So if you enslave them, if you torture them, if you put them in the prison or incarcerate them, there will be no problem because they are not humans, so you don't need to consider about the case. All right, so they are not humans, so they don't have any humanity. So you can do whatever you like with them. The second part, Las Casas argued that they were savages with a soul. So he was a little bit, better in considering these people. So he said, no, they are human beings, but they are savages. They have a soul that is culturally inferior, childlike, and therefore are humans to be Christianized rather than enslaved. So he said that we don't have to enslave them, rather we should Christianize them. They want to ennoble them by giving them this Christianity, this idea of Christianity. Now, these two people, Sepulveda represented the biological racist discourse because he said that they are not human beings, they are only animals. So it's the biological racist discourse. On the other hand, Las Casas, he said that no, they have a soul, but they're savage and they're culturally inferior, so we have to promote them. So that's why his part is called cultural racist discourse. Just keep it in mind, these two terms. Now, Islamophobia is a form of cultural racism. So from the historical perspective, now we are going to the cultural perspective. Now here you see, moreover, in the last 60 years, there has been a historical transformation in racist discourses. While biological racist discourses declined, so you see the biological one, that they are not human beings, they are just animals. So it was on the decline. Now they are now taking recourse to something else that is cultural. Now they are saying, Cultural racism became the hegemonic form of racism in the late world system. The defeat of the Nazi Germany, the anti-colonial struggles, and the civil rights movements of the colonial minorities inside the Western empires created the historical and political conditions for the transition from the biological racism to the cultural racism. So it was a development from the cultural, from the biological to the cultural racism. All right. Now, let's look at this slide. Here, see, in the new cultural racist discourses, religion has a dominant role. You see, religion has a dominant role, but they don't want to say it. The contemporary tropes about uncivilized, it's all about the Muslims. Uncivilized, we are barbarians, savage, primitive, underdeveloped, authoritarian, and terrorist, indeed. Inferior people are today concentrated in the others' religious practices and beliefs. Who are these others? We are the Muslims. So in our practices, we have all these things. All right? So it has become now completely, it has taken a cultural shape. So by focusing on the others means we, others religion, the Europeans, Euro-Americans, and Euro-Israelis managed to escape being accused of racism. So if you take help or take support of that, the biological, discourse of the racism, then religion actually plays a vital role there. So they don't want to go take that risk, so they wanted to take the risk of this. Culturally, they want to promote the whole thing, this racism or the Islamophobia. However, when we examine carefully the hegemonic rhetoric in place, the tropes are a repetition of the old biological racist discourses. You see that everything is same, they just have to change the name and the technique, nothing else. For example, in Great Britain, Muslims are associated to Egyptians, Pakistanis, and Bangladeshis, colonial subjects from old British colonies. Islamophobia in Britain is associated with anti-black, anti-Arab, and anti-South Asian racism. In France, Muslims are mostly North Africans from old colonies such as Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, Senegal, and so on. In the Netherlands, Muslims are mostly from guest workers and colonial migrants coming from Turkey, Morocco, Indonesia, and Suriname. Islamophobia in the Netherlands is associated to racism against guest worker migrants and old colonial subjects. So you see, these are the people, most of the time actually we get the victims, or we are victimized of this so-called Islamophobia. So Islamophobia is a fear of hate of Muslims associated with anti-Arab, anti-Asian, and anti-black racism. So Islamophobia actually, in a sense, you can say it's a kind of racism. In Germany, Islam is associated with anti-Turk racism, while in Spain with anti-Moor racism. Similarly, in the United States, Islam is associated with African Americans and Arabs of all ethnicities. So they are the victim of this Islamophobia. Now let's see some of the images here. You can see Islamophobia. This one is very interesting. Just try to read it. It says that truth doesn't sound bad enough to be a crime. So if you say it's truth, it doesn't sound that much bad. So let's call it Islamophobia. Then it says, Allah, what an akbar idea. See that they're making fun. This one is, look, he's scared of a woman in abaya or in veil. Islamophobia. Stop Islam. You can see these pictures of these kind of things, stuff, every day on different news media. Then here, this one is really, really interesting. You can see it says that first class, second class, it's in the airport when you check in. First class, economic class, and that one is Muslim class. And you see all those Muslims, they're with guns and other things, you see? So this is the Muslim class. This is the way the Western world, actually, they see us. This one is another interesting one. Any girl can go to the university wearing what she wills and have her rights and freedom. So anyone can wear what she likes, they can go. But when anyone is with hijab, then the university, and it's at the gate, you can see, so you cannot go there. There's another one, no more mosque. All right, the next one. Sorry, I missed one. Yeah, look at this, Islamophobia is Orientalism. As I discussed about Orientalism at the beginning of my today's lecture, so that's why I'm not going to go through the whole thing. So by this time you have understood it, that they just want to prove us that we are the other, and it is an intellectual invasion on the East. Then the last one is Islamophobia as epistemic racism. This one is really interesting. Epistemic means it's related with knowledge. With knowledge. It is from the epistemology, which means the study of knowledge. You can see the branch of philosophy that studies knowledge, that is called epistemology, and from there epistemic. So now they are trying to develop some kind of education system. They're trying to develop some kind of philosophy to promote this Islamophobia. Now, they call it Orientalism and we call it Occidentalism. I mean the Western world, the knowledge about the Western world, Occidentalism, created the epistemic privilege and the hegemonic identity politics of the West from which to judge and produce knowledge about the others. So they have developed a kind of academic arena and they want to use it to produce knowledge about the East. That means we, the Eastern people, the Arabs and the Muslims especially, we are not that much knowledgeable. Now they have come to rescue us. They are giving us knowledge and imparting education on us. And now we are learning, we are going to be civilized by the help of these people. Now if you just look at these blue marked sentences, here you can see the superiority of the West is taken for granted, and the epistemic privilege of Western identity politics from which to produce judgments of the other, and the global imperial designs around the world is an unquestioned presupposition. So it's an unquestioned presupposition that they're going to form a knowledge about the Eastern, and it's done by the Western people. Now, what is the relevance of this epistemic discussion to Islamophobia? So actually, what is the logic of discussing this thing? Let's say, it is from a Western hegemonic identity politics and epistemic privilege that the rest of the epistemologies and cosmologies in the world are subalternized as myth, religion, folklore, and culture, downgrading non-Western knowledge below the status of philosophy and science. So you see, our philosophy, our science, it's below the Western philosophy and science. So it's all about downgrading our knowledge. Now let's skip some of these. Now with this one, I want to end the discussion of Islamophobia heresy. The thinking coming from the non-Western locations is not considered worthy of attention except to represent it as uncivilized, primitive, barbarian, and backward. So these are the titles or adjectives most of the time they like to use about us. Epistemic racism allows the West to unilaterally decide what is best for Muslims people today and obstruct any possibility for a serious intercultural dialogue. So they don't want to go for any serious intercultural dialogue. They don't want to talk to us seriously. They just want to fix the things for us, and they want to take the decision. And we don't have any contribution to promote that kind of thing. So you see that this, just look at this. Epistemic racism allows the West to unilaterally decide. So only they will decide, no one, what is best for Muslim people today and obstruct any possibility for a serious intercultural dialogue. So they will obstruct, they will stop any kind of such kind of discussion. I mean the Muslim and the non-Muslim discussion. They don't like this kind of stuff. They want to promote something else, and they want to take that decision by themselves, unilaterally. Now, yes. All right. Now here we see oblivious of the history. Look at this. As a Muslim, it seems that we are much forgetful of our history. All the time we don't have any role model in front of us. We say that whom to follow. We don't have any that kind of scientists. We don't have that kind of literary figures. What should you do? Or even in the medical science or in any field of knowledge, you don't find that substantial contribution of the Muslim intellectuals. But here you see, if you just read, we appreciate shamelessly the West but get oblivious of our contribution in creating and recreating the human civilizations. And we forget the contribution of our forefathers. Here you see, the early Muslims were highly educated. They contributed to modern, sorry for the spelling mistake, they contributed to modern civilization through many fields. Their major cities of enlightenment were Mecca, Medina, Cordoba, Alhambra, Toledo, and Timbuktu, Cairo, Damascus, Baghdad, Fez, Tunisia city, etc. Some contributions are in the field of, let's see what are the contributions in the field of. You can see language. Here you can see 10,000 words in Arabic are found in the English language. And you can see 100,000 words in Arabic are found in the Spanish language. So you see, if you just take out all these words from the lexicon or vocabulary or thesaurus of the English and the Spanish language, and you find that they don't have anything left. So 10,000 from Arabic in English and 100,000 words in Arabic, you can find in the Spanish language. Arithmetic. The present English numbers and the zero are the inventions of the early Muslims. So English numbers itself is the invention of the Muslims. Like algebra, logarithm and calculus, chemistry, physics and medicine, geography and navigation, astronomy and the calendar, using solar and lunar systems at the same time. So you see, these are the contribution of the Muslim scholars. For example, Ibn Khaldun's economic theory is that inflation cannot be lowered by making more jobs available in the country. So we also contribute in the economy. Banking without interest, it was developed by the Muslim scholars. Here you can see Islam preached the concept of sharing in the capital and in the profit rather than having a very small benefit called interest. Islam eliminated the economic exploitation of the poor by reaching a capitalist system. So capitalist system, it gives the privileges to the rich people to exploit the poor people. But here you see it has been eliminated by Islam. Islam has also eliminated dictatorship, monarchy, totalitarianism system or feudal system, which was purely introduced by the Western world. The Islamic scholars learned Greek sciences, translated them into Arabic and augmented their thoughts with fresh ideas, the substance of which outshines even today's scientific and philosophical advancement. Even today's scientific advancement, philosophical and scientific advancement cannot match the contribution of the earlier scholars from the Muslim world. Muslim learned men were motivated and driven by an intellectually spiritual force, and as a consequence, their contributions were qualitative. So just focus on this. Our contributions to the knowledge is qualitative because we have a kind of internal spiritual force is there. On the other hand, you can find completely the materialistic point of view in the Western world. So that's why it has become, you can see, quantitative. It's not qualitative. Quantity is that matters. You can also see that to Kepler, Newton, physical concreteness remains the only objective, and that's the first point of utility. So that is, you can see, the cornerstone of the utilitarian society in the Western world. So within their souls, there remained a sense of emptiness. So whatever the knowledge contributes, all the time you're not satisfied with that, you find that there is a kind of emptiness is there in their knowledge and in philosophy. All right. Now, understanding of Taghut and its influence. What is it doing to this modern world or contemporary situation? It is aggravating our contemporary situations, worsening our situations every day. What is Taghut? The word Taghut is derived from Thugan. The literal meaning of this word is crossing the border or to pass the limit. So to pass the limit, that is prescribed by the Quran and the Sunnah. If we cross the limit, that we call Taghut. Now, Imam Malik, may Allah have mercy on him, defined Taghut as anything or anyone worshipped apart from Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is Taghut. Now, I would like to go through the headings, 5 important headings of Taghut. You can see the first one. The devil who calls the people to worship other than Allah. The proof for this is Allah saying, that means if you don't worship Allah other than Allah, then did I not command you, O children of Adam, that you should not worship the devil? Verily he is a plain enemy to you. Surah Yasin, 60, verse number 60. The second, the tyrannical and oppressive ruler who changes Allah's rulings. They are also considered to be Taghut. The third, the one who judges by other than what Allah has revealed, and the proof for this is Allah saying, here you see, in Surah Ma'idah, verse number 44, and whoever doesn't judge by what Allah has revealed, then they are the disbelievers. The fourth one, the one who claims to have knowledge of the unseen. Only Allah has the knowledge of the unseen, but they are saying that they have the knowledge of unseen, apart from Allah. The fifth, the one who is worshipped apart from Allah, while being pleased with being worshipped. Now, the proof of this is Allah saying, is in Surah Anbiya, verse number 29, it says, and whoever amongst them says, verily I am a God besides him, that besides Allah, then this person's recompense will be the hellfire. That is the way we recompense the wrongdoers. So from these 5 different headings, you can see who are the Taghut. Now, it's a verse from the Surah Al-Nahl, you see, verse number 36, it says, وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاسْتَبِنُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. It says, And we certainly sent into every nation a messenger. Worship Allah and avoid taghut. And among them were those whom Allah guided, and among them were those upon whom error was deservedly decreed. So proceed through the earth and observe how was the end of the desires. Now, regarding taghut, actually, you can see there are different kinds of isms who are very much in vogue in the contemporary world, like democracy, capitalism, communism, or secularism. All these things are considered to be the taghut. So we must be very much careful about the propagation of these kind of isms and propagated by the Western scholars and also their collaborators in the East. Now, the normalization of the vice. That means there are lots of sins, there are lots of vices, but these things are presented in front of us in such a way by the Western media that we take it as normal. That, for example, adultery, it's not a sin. Drinking alcohol, it's not a problem, it's just having fun. So there is nothing wrong in it. Now you see, Satan's ultimate goal is to make people go astray and eventually to turn them into disbelievers or polytheists at a minimum. The manner in which Satan pursues that goal varies in accordance with the interests and inclinations of his victims. For example, he uses, just notice this, he uses piety to attack the pious, scholarly disciplines to attack scholars, false reasoning and logic for those who take pride in being knowledgeable, and ignorance to attack the ignorant. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has warned us in the Holy Quran. It says Surah Al-Araf, verse 27, he says, O children of Adam, let not Satan deceive you as he got your parents Adam and Hawa out of paradise. Now, normalization of vice, I have just selected that, how it has been done. This is the process, five steps. We can remember it in this way very easily. Step 1, giving different names or changing names of the vice. So the name of the vice will be changed and it will be presented in a very halal way so that you'll be deceived. Then glamorizing the vice. So they will glorify, glamorize the vice, okay? It will outshine anything, then you will like it. Then contextualizing vices with the local culture. So for example, if they want to promote the sale of alcohol, so they will try to contextualize with the local culture so that local people will take it easily. They don't find any problem buying and drinking alcohol. Promoting the idea of freedom of choice. So they also do this kind of thing, freedom of choice. You have the freedom of choice, you can do whatever you like, so don't think about it. For example, in the Western world, people who don't believe in religion and who are very, what should I say, they're inclined or they have the proneness to have sexual promiscuity. That means they say the freedom of choice. It's my body, it's my decision. The religious scriptures or the holy scriptures, they don't have anything to do on that or do with that. So I will take the decision that with whom I'm going to have sexual intercourse like this. Then the secularization. That is the final stage. They will secularize the whole thing in such a way that secularization means the separation of the religion from the state and also from the public life, or we can say just to keep it in your private life. That means if you want to pray in your home, don't go to mosque and don't talk about religion publicly in the public forum. So they will secularize this thing, or they'll promote the secularization so that they can enhance the normalization of the vice. Now here you see, these are some things, some images that I've collected from the internet. You can see, definitely it's a bottle of beer. It says the nectar of the guys. So if it says the nectar of the guys, nectar is a halal thing. They change the name, but it's alcoholic. So nectar of the guys. If you take it, you feel better. So there is nothing haram in it. It's just fun. Glamorizing the vice, you see. This bottle of vodka, it's absolute fantasy. So you see the way look at the words that they're using just to promote or advertise this kind of stuff. This one is very interesting. It says, beer will change the world. I don't know how, but it will. So beer will change the world. So you see, they're just trying to change your mind. Normalizing the vice. Next one. This bottle of beer, that will open your world. Now, this whole normalization, actually it has some, you can say some vehicles or some mechanics. Look at this, Coca colonization. It's from the Coca-Cola. Because Coca-colonization is a term that refers to the globalization of American culture. So when you buy Coca-Cola, actually you're buying American culture, and they're promoting. Look at their advertisement on different channels. If you just notice this advertisement, then you can see that how they try to promote the American culture with this Coca-Cola. Right? The next one you can see, McDonaldization. And it has become a complete economic system. Or you can see how you have to do business. Now it is an established thing. Look, McDonaldization is a term used by sociologist George Ritzer in his book, The McDonaldization of Society. It was published in 1993. He explains that it becomes manifested when a culture adopts the characteristics of a fast food restaurant. McDonaldization is a reconceptualization of rationalization, or moving from traditional to rational moods of thought and scientific management. So you see, it has become a complete science. And you see that their purpose, look at this. McDonaldization thesis in cultural version is a comparatively recent idea of the worldwide homogenization of cultures. Just try to remember this phrase. This is very important, brothers and sisters. Homogenization of cultures. So they're saying that we are all the same. We don't have any difference. No Muslim, no Christians, we're all brothers. So they try to make a same culture. And this McDonald's and this Coca-Cola, they try to promote this idea of homogenized culture throughout the world. One world, one culture. You can say the globalization of the culture. Now, Ummah Wasat, the moderate Muslim. This is very, very important. Most of the time we are very confused with this idea, and the Western world, already they have disseminated this idea, and they have already, what should I say, that we people, actually we are the Muslims, we have started thinking ourselves that yes, we are moderate Muslim. But let's see, what does it mean, moderate Muslim? If you just look at these verses from the Holy Quran, it is in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 143, it says, and in the same way, we made you a moderate ummah, community, so that you should be witness over the people, and the messenger is a witness to you. I'll just stop here. Please notice this here. Should be messenger. You see, there should be the witness over the people, and the messenger a witness to you. That means we are the people, will be the witness over the other people on the day of judgment. Will be the witness over the other people, and Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he will also be the witness over us. Now, if you think that, just take it as the worldly perspective. If you consider it in this way, if you want to be a witness, certainly there should be some kind of righteousness in you. Certainly you should be just. If you're not just, if you're a liar, no one will accept your witness in the court. Isn't it? Similarly, on the day of judgment, if you want to be the witness of the other nations, definitely Muslims, they should be a just nation. So here you see, Ummah Wasat or Ummah Wasat, it doesn't mean moderate, it doesn't mean in between the extreme and between the moderate, between the something soft and something hard. Not like this. This is not these binary oppositions. This is not the understanding. The understanding of the Ummah Wasati or the moderate Muslim, that they are saying, Ummah Wasat, it means that the just nation. Because if you have to be the witness on the day of judgment over the other nations, and Prophet Muhammad, he is the most just in among the all nations, among the all people, and he will be the witness over everyone on the day of judgment. Now you see, Ummah Wasat is a word used in the Quran by Allah regarding the Islamic Ummah, and hence it is the best Ummah brought forth for mankind. Ummah Wasat is an honorable Quranic description bestowed by Allah upon his believing slaves through the message of Islam, and made it the duty to inform the world about its message. So if you're not just, if you're not righteous, if you don't have the rectitude of your personality, then definitely you are not going to disseminate or propagate the idea of Islam, or you cannot do that. The Ummah Wasat is a specific Sharia legal criterion upon which the Ummah of Islam's performance is just, so we see if it is in a state of trying to please people or pleasing Allah. So we have to concentrate on pleasing Allah. Now, I don't want to go for the whole discussion about this Ummah Wasat. That is briefly we can say it, but the last thing that I would like to focus on here. All right. Now you see how the Western world, they have contrived this idea, or you can say they have deceived us in which way? So this is an example. You see, it's an article, very famous article. It was published in 2005, US News and World Report. The title of this article is Hearts, Minds and Dollars. And it was written by David E. Kaplan. Just notice this. What does it say? The White House has approved a classified new strategy dubbed Muslim World Outreach that for the first time states that the United States has a national security interest in influencing what happens within Islam. So they try to influence the Islam, and they have interest with the countries. They're trying to change their Islam. For example, if they have any interest in Bangladesh or in Pakistan, so they will try to change the Islam of Bangladesh and Pakistan. So in that way, actually, it will be easy for them to control the people. Now look, let's read the rest of the sentences. The paragraph, you'll see, because America is, as one official put it, radioactive in the Islamic world, the plans call for working through third parties. And what is the third party? Their collaborator, moderate Muslim nations, foundations and reform groups. So this moderate Muslim, actually, they are not Muslims in that sense. They're just the collaborator, or you can see they're just the assistants of this Western world, just to uplift and promote their vested interest. So to promote shared values of democracy, human rights, and tolerance. The last one, from the same article, it says, in at least 2,000 countries, look at this, 2,000 countries, Washington has quietly funded Islamic radio and television shows, coursework in Muslim schools, Muslim think tanks, political workshops, or other programs that promote moderate Muslim. Federal aid is going to restore mosques, save ancient Qurans, even build Islamic schools. This broad engagement with Islam has raised questions about whether the funding is legal, given the constitutional line between the church and the state. So look at this. So now we understand that from where actually we have got this idea of moderate Muslim, whether it is suggested in the Quran. All right, I'll just look, as a Da'i, actually we have to have some comparative, comparative religion, or you can say knowledge about other religions. All of you actually, you are quite familiar with this idea, and I don't want to go through the whole thing, just my personal study that I try to understand in it this way, because most of the time, the part, I'm from the subcontinent, Indian subcontinent, and from Bangladesh, and we have lots of Hindu people there, and also we have lots of people from the Hindu communities working here in Saudi Arabia. So sometimes we come across them. So if you have a little bit of understanding of the Hindu religion, then how can you convince them? Look at this. Here, this is a surah class, or we can also say that Kullu Allahu Ahad, Allahu Samad, Lam Yalid wa Lam Yulad, wa Lam Yakul Lahu Kufuwan Ahad. Now look at the just a meaning. Say He is Allah, who is one, Allah the eternal refuge. He neither begets nor is born, nor is there to Him any equivalent. Now let's take a look at this. These are the some lines from their holy scriptures, these Hindu scriptures, Upanishads. It says that the following verses from the Upanishads refers to the concept of God. You see, He is one only without a second. You see the first line of Surah Ikhlas. The next, it says, of Him there are neither parents nor Lord. You see, this is the third line of Surah Ikhlas. And then you can see, there is no likeness of Him. That is the fourth line of Surah Ikhlas. So from this you can see that about the oneness of the God, or oneness of the Allah, it is pronounced, or it is accentuated in their own religious scriptures. So if we want to convince any people from any religions, we need to have some kind of understanding of that particular religion, so that we can have a good conversation with that person, and especially we can convince him using his own religion. We don't have to use our religions, our religious ideas. We can convince them that, look, in your religion it says that the Allah is one. Then why are you saying that He is, He is many, with many heads and many wives, something like this. So I'd like to finish it with this. Sorry. Let me just go to the last one. Sorry for the interruption. this is the ayah from the Surah Sa'ad, verse 29. It says that this is a blessed book which we have revealed to you, that they might reflect upon its verses and that those of understanding would be reminded. So let's concentrate on this, that we can have an understanding of the Quran and Sunnah. And on the basis of that understanding, we can solve the contemporary conflicts and misunderstandings about Islam and the Muslims worldwide. Thank you very much, and thanks for your patience listening. Yeah.
Brother Muhammad Sharir, allow me to congratulate you from my heart for such presentation. No one in this hall can deny that there is a lot of effort and research done behind this great effort that he summarized it for us in these slides. Now I am between two opinions. Either I should, as I promised, we should stop now, but what question and answer. So I'll give you the choice. Either we will stop and prepare ourselves for the next lecture, or we will gratify your inclination and rest and allow 10 minutes for question and answer, because when I checked Maghrib prayer, I noticed that it is 6:12. So do you think 12 minutes is enough for you to have some refreshment and prepare for Maghrib? If you think so, we will allow 10 minutes for question and answer or comments for this very informative presentation. So those who would like us to give 10 minutes for question and answer, raise your hand, please. Those who would like us to stop right now, please raise your hand. Some people are neutral, nothing. Otherwise, I could make the decision. So allow me, we will allow 9 minutes for question and answer. The floor is open now for our sisters, for you brothers to give your comment, question, and I'm sure that we will benefit from your comment, inshallah. The first question, in the ladies section, do we have any question? We have a question? Okay, I'll pass the microphone to you. Yes, go ahead, sister, with your question.
Okay, my question is this. I read somewhere in Quran and we believe in one God. And
go ahead, please don't interrupt her.
my religion is I'm a Muslim.
Yes, go
But
ahead.
I'm just a new Muslim. Okay, my question is this. Who created heaven and earth? Because when I read from Quran, I get the word we. You know, I get confused. We, who and who?
Okay, thank you. Can you pass the microphone?
Okay, thank you for such a nice question. Actually, it was also a question for me, because when I try to study the Quran, most of the time actually you find this word we. Most probably she's talking about the translation, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he says something, when he emphasizes on something, then he says, in translation, you find it that it's as we. I think that those who are very much conversant with the Arabic linguistics actually, they can answer this question. But from my understanding, what I've felt that here actually we, it doesn't mean 2, 3, or 4 gods. Here actually we means a kind of authority. For example, I can give an example. Look, Barack Obama, he's the president of the United States of America. So he can take lots of decisions by himself, and he doesn't have to go to the Congress or any other form to get it passed. So he can take the decision by himself. But on different press conferences, you can see that our presidents or prime ministers or people from the authority, when they talk, they say that we have decided. So then they go for the rest of the thing. So you see, we have decided that it was a decision made by the prime minister or the president by himself, but he's saying we. Here we means his whole authority. It's a kind of dignity. So just like this, that's my understanding of the
And
word.
sister, from a linguistic point of view, we have what is called majestic pronouns.
Yeah.
Majestic pronouns, this means we use we to glorify the speaker. Usually when Queen Elizabeth, for example, she wouldn't say I, the Queen Elizabeth, she would say we. So we should understand it that in language we have what is called majestic glorification, majestic pronoun. So we means it is kind of glorification to God, but it means only one God. Question from the brothers?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Thank you for your nice presentation. My question is that don't you think that present internet facilities is also a threat to the contemporary Islam?
Thank you very much. It's a very tricky question, because if I say no, then I have to stop using internet. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I have collected lots of stuff from the internet by myself. So I cannot say that we have to stop internet. You see, it's a very common analogy. You can take the example of a knife. You can kill a person and you can save a person with the help of a knife. The doctor, they save life of the people with the help of a knife. And robbers or miscreants, they use knife just to rob people or to kill people. So you see, the way actually you use it, it's your outlook, it's your use, it depends on it. So I shouldn't think that we should stop it, because it has also facilitated the dissemination of Islam throughout the whole world. For example, maybe today's lecture and also lectures before, and also I watch lots of lectures, Islamic lectures on YouTube. So you see, you can take the help from the internet in that way. So it depends on the personal discretion.
So, brothers and sisters, forgive me please. I wish we could give more time to question and answer, but time is running. So now, please, our sisters, we request them to go forward to the cafeteria and enjoy the refreshment, followed by the brothers. So please, the sisters, try to hurry up to give enough time for the brothers to follow.
You can use the Skype for one more.